Here we are, Thoughts from the Office, Rednecks Pride Outdoors. It's August 12th, and I'm in high gear putting in Deer Stuff 1 and Deer Stuff 2 sights. The Minerals, which is Deer Stuff 1, is still going to work pretty strong for another month and a half. About October, they start pulling off of the mineral as much. They still come to it, but they're coming off of it. The draw is not as strong on the mineral. Just like the Deer Stuff 2, which is a dry attractant. And they're kind of not hitting it hard right this second. They're still more on mineral, but they're starting to come on to it pretty heavy now. And a lot of folks have been, asking me here lately, is it too late to get it in? No, it's just right, just about the time to get it in. Here it is, like I said, mid-August, the 12th. I'm out here in the woods putting them in, and I got a tree across the road that I can't get across, so I'm going to have to turn around. But let's, just to keep talking about it, there's a couple strategies that I use, and I'm going to just talk about one that I use a lot. And you don't have to use Deer Stuff 1 and Deer Stuff 2 for this strategy. You can use this for any mineral or dry attractant, or even bait pile if you want. But I tell people this all the time: if you're going to use a bait pile, you don't want to overdo it. If you're going to use bait, corn, apples, whatever, no more than a 5-gallon bucket for this method. Now, let me say this. This method involves 2 what we call sights. And it works better with I got all kinds of stuff up my nose. Just walked out of the woods, my nose is itching. I got strawberry flies biting the heck out of me. I sprayed down and still wasn't working on the strawberry flies, and I've got cobwebs and spider webs up my nose, itching like crazy, and I know even though I sprayed down good, I'm going to get them stinking chiggers. Doggone it. But anyway, getting back to what I was here talking to you about. This is one of the methods that I will use with my Deer Stuff 1 and my Deer Stuff 2. And again, we're using very little product. I will put down 1 bag of Deer Stuff 1, which is a mineral, at 1 spot. And then I see where the deer are coming from. So in other words, I'll just regress here, and I'm just going to go back. What I'm doing is I'm setting up two sights. And if I'm setting it up for bow, these 2 sights are going to be 50 to 100 yards apart from each other. And if I'm setting up for bow and gun, I usually am going to go 75 to 100 yards apart from each other. There's a reason for that, okay? With bow, I'm going to set these sights up, and I'm going to put my stand directly in the middle of those 2 spots, so on the main run that I set it up on. So in other words, what I do is I go into 1 spot, say there's a hub or whatever, and I try to figure out where they're coming from to reach this one spot. And I prefer to have them coming to it from, we'll just use an example here. I come to the spot and the deer tend to travel from the west out of the bedding area, and they work their way towards the feeding areas, which is to the east or northeast. So where they are heading to the north and the northeast, where they will split up into 2 or 3 trails to go off into their different directions, I'm going to put the mineral site in, the Deer Stuff 1, dig it in, one whole bag, and then I'm going to take a quarter of a bag and put it on top of the Deer Stuff 1. And about every 10 days, I'll come back in and I'll put in about a quarter of a bag, which equals about a quart of Deer Stuff 2, because the Deer Stuff 1 is still working in that spot. Now, I already told you that the deer are coming from the west, out of this big old swamp, big old thick crap area that you can't get into, and they like to hide up into that area there. So then what I'll do is I go over to that area where right before it gets real thick and they're heading into their bedding area. All right. And right on the trail. Now, both of these spots are right on the trail. They're not pulled off of the trail. They're right on the trail. I'll put in a Deer Stuff 2 site. And I've got videos to show you how to do all that. Same way, loosen the soil up. I prefer a rotted log. In my area, it's easy to find a lot of rotted logs laying on the ground, so I can get it in there and get it down into that thing. I do loosen up soil. I just feel better having them digging and eating the rotted wood rather than the dirt. Not that they care, but just for me, I just like it better that way. I also believe that rotted log, loamy soil that's created holds the product scent better, and I tend to get longer time frames from it. Okay, so we're to the north and the northeast of that spot. I got my mineral Deer Stuff 1, and then on top of that I put a little Deer Stuff 2 on top of that. If I'm going to set it up for bow, 50 to 100 yards, 50 to 75 seems to be better, especially for the early season. All right, I go straight down that most used trail, and I put in the Deer Stuff 2. Right on the trail where they're coming out of that thick stuff, and I leave it alone. Okay? And I want them hitting on it. I want them getting on it and nailing it pretty good. Now, when it comes to setting my stand, I'm going to go right in between. Now, in my area, my predominant wind is going to be north or northwest. All right. So I will, at that point, set my stand on the predominant downwind side of that trail, and I usually like to go 15 to 20 yards if I'm using a crossbow. If I'm using my longbow, I want to be 15 yards-ish, okay? And I'm going to be on the downwind side of that trail. So when they're coming from the west and they're working to the east and the northeast, okay, I'm on the downwind side of that trail. And I'm going to be up about 16, 18 feet. And there's a reason for that. What I find is when I'm in a woods and not along an edge of a field or in a wide open area or what have you, my wind isn't going to swirl and buck back on me as much. So in other words, by the time my wind is going, the wind is pretty true. I'm not going to get the swirls, and I'm not going to get the thermal changes, if you will, that you'll get on the edge of a field. And this is important to understand that, okay? So in all reality, what I've done is I've set it up for the predominant wind of north, northwest, or north. My scent is blowing into the area where the deer aren't going to come to me. But on a southwest or a south wind, okay, or even a northeast wind, I can hunt that stand. The only stand I can't hunt that on is an east. All right? But even at that, I can cheat a little bit because if I'm back about 20 yards and I've got an east wind, I may be able to sneak it in. If you're hunting a real big buck, you might not want to chance it. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why I like to go back 20 yards if I can, so that on those unpreferred winds, I can hunt that stand. Now you're saying, but Jonesy, you're hunting on the downwind side of the trail, and you just said that you can hunt it on a south and a southwest wind. Your wind is blowing right to that trail. Remember what I said about thermals and air whipping around and curling around and what have you? When I'm up 16 to 18 feet, 20 feet, with no thermals bouncing around, with the wind just being more or less consistent, if you will, even on the south to southwest wind, with the deer coming from the west, I'm in between the two spots most times, unless it's a real hard bucking wind. If it's a steady wind, most times my scent is blowing straight over top of that trail, because my scent isn't going to drop down for probably 30 yards on a south wind. If I'm 15 yards off of that trail, I can almost guarantee that my scent on a steady wind, now again we're talking about steady wind, is going to go over that trail. Now, if I'm hunting a big buck, I ain't chancing it. If I've got a really good buck, 3-year-old buck, or a smart doe, I am not going to chance hunting a south or a southwest wind. All right. But if I just want to kill a doe for food, I'll take a chance once in a while. Now you deer experts are saying, Josie, you're just talking nonsense. No, I'm not. I'm really not. Okay? I'm talking about killing deer. I'm talking about going out and killing a deer. I'm not talking about you guys that's going out and looking at that 150 class buck and trying to kill him. This is not that method. This is the method that I get the deer hitting that deer stuff too on the west side. They like it. When they go over and they find the mineral and the deer stuff too, 50 to 100 yards over, Because I'm using it sparingly, they get a little lick over there on the west side. They know it's over there to the northeast. There ain't no more here to really hit on. So now what they do is their sights are set on that other spot. Okay? And they're heading to that spot. Their brain is keying in on that. I'm set up in between to get them as they go past. If I'm gun hunting, I'm going to be 30 to 40 yards back off that trail. The problem with that, if you're gun hunting and you're 30 to 40 yards back off that trail, now you're just about at that place to where your scent is going to drop down and hit that trail. All right. So a lot of you guys are saying, this guy don't even know what he's talking about. Let me tell you what, I've been hunting deer for a long time. And there was a time or two that I used to be a big deer hunter, meaning big racks. But I found out I couldn't eat them things. I tried, no matter how hard I tried, I could not eat an antler to save my life. I boiled them, I fried them, whatever. I just couldn't eat that stinking thing. So now if I go deer hunting, I want to kill a deer. I don't want to sit in a tree stand, watch deer walk past. I want to kill a deer. I'm talking about killing deer. I'm not talking about buck hunting. I'm talking about deer killing. So let her rip into me. Go ahead. It don't matter. All right. But I just showed you, I just talked about how to set up to get that deer to go in between. And by the way, that's the way the old timers taught me. See, New Jersey always had a baiting law. People don't realize that. New Jersey always had a baiting law. We just couldn't be in an elevated stand or a man-made blind within 300 feet of that. You'd be on the ground all day long. So the old timers showed me how to do that. Old timers showed me how to get in there, get off that bait that they're putting in. Now, you heard me talk about a 5-gallon bucket. Both spots. All you're doing is creating competition. You're not creating a food store. You're not creating a grocery store. You're creating a competition. You want to put just enough of your bait, your corn, your apples, whatever, to make them deer come in, eat it up quickly. And no mo. That way the next time you come in and do that, they know you're in there. You do that 3-4 weeks in a row, every few days. Oh my God, what are you talking about, Josie? Going in there every few days? Yep. One of the methods I used to use with my son, my youngest son, he loved deer hunting. We would go in with the deer stuff too, and we would go in, put it down. We would do that 3 days in a row, same time every day. Walk in, not being loud, but not being quiet either. Go in, put it down, turn around, walk off. All right. Go in. A lot of times we'd go in and we could see deer off in the distance, off a little bit watching us coming in. Didn't care. We did it 3 days in a row. This is on sites that we already had deer hitting. They knew what was going on. Okay, they had been there for a month, 2 months, a year, whatever it was. At that point, on the 4th day, I'd go in. He'd go up to stand. I'd put it down, turn around, walk back out. Where's the fair chase? It's there. I'm not here talking about how to kill that 150 class deer. You got to go to these other boys and talk about that. I just told you how to kill a deer. All right, this ought to catch a lot of hate mail. Hey, do me a favor. Subscribe, like. Even if you don't like this video, subscribe and like. That way you can see all the rest of the videos that I make, and then you can get on that mail wagon. You can go all these hate mails to me. Okay? Subscribe and hate. I need it. I'll talk to you later. Rednecks Pride Outdoors.